At a time when political parties are preparing to engage in coalition talks to establish a new government following the June 7 general election, political party representatives have said President Recep Tayyip Erdoğan's tutelage over the Justice and Development Party, AK Party, and his resistance to the normalization of the country are likely to cause the coalition talks to hit a deadlock. Following the election, in which the AK Party failed to win the minimum number of parliamentary seats to continue its single-party rule for another term, discussions have begun on the various alternatives of a coalition government. A coalition government among the Republican People's Party, CHP, the Nationalist Movement Party, MHP, and the pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party, HDP, which together received around 60% of the nationwide vote, seems unlikely because of the MHP's dislike of the HDP. This situation makes a coalition government with the AK Party, which received around 40% of the vote, a strong possibility. Representatives from the three parties have told Sunday's Zaman that President Erdoğan's baggage is likely to lead to a deadlock in the coalition talks. Erdoğan, one of the founders of the AK Party who served as its leader and the country's prime minister up until his election to the presidency last year, still acts like the party's leader. Despite strong criticism, he held public rallies during the election campaign asking for support for the AK Party. As president, he is constitutionally required to remain impartial, however. Dengirmir Mehmet Fırat, a former AK Party deputy chairman and a current HDP deputy, has said Erdoğan is negatively affecting the coalition talks not only because of his stance concerning the December 17 to 25, 2013 corruption probe, but also due to him obstructing the normalization of the country. Fırat said the course of the coalition talks will be determined in accordance with whether Erdoğan's tutelage over the AK Party continues. All the political parties are against going to a snap election in autumn. In addition, representatives from leading business organizations, such as the Union of Chambers and Commodity Exchanges of Turkey, TOBB, Turkish Industrialists and Businessmen's Association, SAD, and the Independent Industrialists and Businessmen's Association, MİSAD, who have visited political parties in Ankara are known to have told them not to call for a snap election out of economic concerns. MİSAD President Nail Olpak, who was recently appointed to this post, made his first visit to Erdoğan and voiced his concerns about slowing down the Turkish economy. Olpak also announced that his institution is against a snap election because they fear losing the year 2016 in addition to having lost 2015 because it was an election year. Although political parties and the business world are against a snap election, no distance has been covered in the coalition talks. There is a common view in the corridors of Ankara that President Erdoğan is seeking a deadlock in the coalition talks. Both the CHP and the MHP set their preconditions for a coalition with the AK Party as the reopening of the December 17 to 25, 2013 corruption dossiers, 4 former ministers being sent to trial for their alleged involvement in corruption and Erdoğan returning to the constitutional boundaries set by the parliamentary system. CHP and MHP administrators stress they will not give up on these red lines, which would be difficult for Erdoğan to accept. Erdoğan, who was the prime minister at the time, called the corruption investigations that went public in December 2013, in which his close circle was implicated, a coup attempt against his government. An MHP official who requested to remain anonymous talked about why establishing a coalition is difficult with the AK Party. "We are not closing the doors on a coalition. Yet, we are determined not to make any concessions from our red lines." MHP leader Devlet Bahçeli voiced this determination saying, "Give Bilal, take the government," suggesting that he wants to see Erdoğan's son Bilal Erdoğan tried on corruption charges as a precondition for a possible coalition. Just like it is impossible for us to come side by side with the HDP, it is impossible for us to establish a government with the AK Party due to our preconditions, he said. Bahçeli called on the AK Party to allow the trial of Bilal Erdoğan. Bilal's name was among the suspects of the second leg of the corruption probe, the December 25 probe, which was stalled due to government interference. HDP CO chairman Selahattin Demirtas, who announced before the June 7 election that his party will not take part in a coalition government with the AK party, continues his determination to this effect. He just said his party would support an AK party CHP coalition if they take steps in line with the principles of their party. As for the CHP, the party has not closed the doors on a coalition with the AK party. However, the party's leader, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, has recently announced a 14-article list of principles that his party will seek to agree with any coalition partner. The CHP's list includes, among other things, the president remaining within constitutional boundaries, the fight against corruption, supremacy of law and a democratic constitution. The AK party needs to convince Erdoğan first on these issues before allying with the CHP for a coalition government. CHP Deputy Group Chairman Engin Altay, commenting on the issue to Sunday's Zaman, said it is impossible for his party to give up on the 14-article list. It is better to describe the content of this list as our priorities rather than our red lines. Without an agreement on our priorities, no result is likely to emerge from the coalition talks, he said. Snap polls pose big risk. The head of the Ankara-based Metropole Strategic and Social Research Center, Ozur Senkar, told Sunday's Zaman that going to a snap election would be very risky for the AK party in particular. Even if they have a slight increase in votes, this increase will not be sufficient to bring the AK party to power alone, he said. There are fears in AK party ranks that the result of a snap poll will place Erdoğan and AK party leader Davutoglu into a more difficult situation than today. In such a case, the CHP, MHP, and the HDP will point to Erdoğan as the single reason for the failure of the establishment of a coalition government. They are likely to say that the AK party is unwilling to take any steps concerning the corruption allegations and normalization of the country due to Erdoğan's resistance.